Welcome to Regulate This, an RIA unfiltered podcast. So I'm totally excited to have Paul Winkler, founder, head bitch in charge, CEO, head advisor of Paul Winkler Inc. To set the scene for you guys listening, Paul Winkler Inc. is an SEC registered RIA. They are headquartered in the Nashville area. They've got multiple locations and advisors throughout the Nashville metropolitan area. They offer financial planning, asset management services. He's been state registered. He's now SEC registered. They do a ton of marketing, TV, radio, podcasts, video, audio, blogs. They do it all. So I wanted to give you guys that context so that you understand, the kind of firm that Paul is running. Paul, we're so excited to have you on Regulate This.
Good to hang out with the ladies this morning. All right.
Yes, let's not forget the other badass lady on this podcast. I got my co-host Tracy Bear.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be with you. So happy to have Paul. You should never talk about favorites, but Paul is one of my favorites. So glad that he's here. So glad that he's willing to share.
I don't pay you enough. I just don't.
But seriously, Paul is a unicorn, okay? So let me go through what Paul does.
Oh boy, here we go.
We talked about the RIA, all right? He is a scholar. This is a multi-degree guy. He is a therapist, and he actually spends at least a day every week doing therapy with actual people. And yes, he actually, real life, wants to talk to other people about their problems. So he does that at least one day a week where he's acting as a counselor and therapist to normal, everyday people. He also is in a band, very talented musician. He's recorded with some big names. I'm sure he will grace us with a few of them. He rides motorcycles.
No motorcycles. No motorcycles. You don't want me on a motorcycle. Yeah, that is one thing I won't do.
You look at Paul and you wouldn't think he's a rock star god that rides around on motorcycles and also counsels people.
No motorcycles.
He looks like such a sweet, innocent man, and he's so thoughtful and kind and soft-spoken. No, he is a bad ass.
Oh gosh. A legend in my own mind, I guess. But anyway, moving right along. Enough about me, good grief.
So anything you want to add, Paul, to provide any further context to our listeners before we jump into kind of our question?
Yeah, just the firm, the idea behind the firm is I work for a lot of really big investment firms, broker-dealers. We have people that work with us that came from the banking side of things, worked for the insurance industry, did just about everything, property and casualty, obviously home and auto, like disability insurance and long-term care and life insurance and mutual funds, 401k plans. Good grief, we did Section 105 plans for health insurance programs. And we were really, really in the deep water when it came to investment planning and financial planning and just looking at the entirety of somebody's financial picture. So there isn't anything that I haven't done in that area. And I became really intrigued with academics of investing and how markets really worked and, did some time, but I spent some time, a lot of time studying with some really brainy people. It was really, really fun. So I started collecting financial planning degrees. And a lot of the reason I started collecting them is because I looked so young at age 25 that nobody was going to take me seriously. So I had to get lots of designations behind my name and then borrow other people's credibility. That was my big philosophy, is borrow credibility of people that came before. And was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. God only knows how I ended up being chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, but we were having a marketing thing for my people. And this one guy's listening to me talk and he goes, "You have got to be doing a radio show." Because I was talking about how things really worked and all of what I was discussing were things that nobody had ever heard before. They had never heard anybody talk about these types of things and where returns really came from and dysfunction in the investment industry. So he said, start a radio show. And I said, how do you do that? Great. He says, call up a program director. Or call up, somebody that is running a station and ask them, hey, what does it take to have a show on your station? Well, this guy I talked to, he said, we don't take anything like your type of show. This is back before financial talk was anything. Nobody actually did that in the Nashville area anyway. There were some areas around the country. He said, no, we don't do anything like that. And I said, who might? And he says, well, there's a big band station and they might do something like that. And I said, okay. So I called up the big band station. He goes, I got a half hour for you. I got a half hour slot on a Saturday. It's big band music all the way during the week. And I'm like, I'm cool with big band. I'm a drummer. Yeah, I can roll with that. And matter of fact, I do play in a big band Sinatra band now. But anyway, what happened was they gave me that show. I was scared to death, brought a buddy of mine on so I could bounce things off of him. And then 2 months later, the same station calls me up and said, we love your show. Would you come on here? And I said, wait. I thought you guys didn't take stuff like ours. And the guy goes, I'm the new program director. And I've been listening to other stations and I heard what you were doing. And I thought, wow, this is really great stuff. So they gave me a shot. 4 years I spent there. And then I moved over to another station who came in and says, hey, we got 71,000 listeners. We're double the power. We're a 100,000 watt station versus their 50,000 watt. We're on the FM dial versus their AM.
Oh, wow.
And they said, would you come over here? And I was like, okay, why would I not do that? Now you had to have advertising. I had to sell advertising for the show in order to raise money because I was so broke I couldn't pay attention. I didn't believe anything that I was in what I was selling. I hated it. I hated selling health insurance. I hated selling life insurance as an investment. I couldn't do annuities. There were just things I didn't want to do. And he said, come on over here. You have 8 minutes of advertising per hour. Sell the advertising to raise the money for the show, and then you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So that's how it all came to be. And what happened was I got out there, and I had a friend of mine said something that was absolutely critical early in my career, that was critical to success. At me and he goes, you're a teacher. Teach. People will beat a path to your door if you simply teach. People will hear what you have to say. They will want to work with you. That's all you need to do. That's what I did from then on. I just taught. And he was right. It was phone ringing off the hook. I would just teach on how things worked. I would go against the establishment a lot, though. I'm going to tell you that. And the reason I did that and still do it is the most famous ad of all time in fast food is what? Where's the beef? And it was the whole idea. Wendy's basically saying McDonald's is broken, Burger King is broken. Where's the beef? We're the answer. And that is a lot of what I'll do is I point out the dysfunction because a lot of people are struggling financially out there. They really are. And they're not sure they're going to make it through retirement. And they've tried everything before and it's failed. And every time that they fail, they just become less trustful of the financial industry and they want to get out of it. They want to walk away from it or do it themselves, because they don't trust they're being given good advice. And that is sad. So that's a little bit more background.
Love it. And just so our listeners know, you do have multiple degrees, but you also have a couple of designations, correct? And everyone on your team has a CFA or CFP at least.
CFP or Chartered Financial Consultant, because they're basically the same exact coursework. CHFC is just a little bit more coursework, but the same classes with a couple of extras. So I'm good with either one of those. CFA, I'm not a big fan of because it's more of an active management designation, from my experience. And I am more driven by making sure that we have very, very deep financial planning background than necessarily asset management, because we're big on that aspect of things, making sure that we holistically look at everything. I called it the risk management side of the investing process. That's the moat around your castle, and the castle is what you're building up as far as investing. So I want to make sure that we're dealing with both things.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Paul. So if nothing else, Paul has got some hustle and grind, right? As much as he was young and afraid and had imposter syndrome like so many of us do when we first get started in the business. I get asked a lot. I'm sure, Paul, you've gotten asked by other advisors, how do I grow my business? What are you doing that I need to be doing? And it really just comes down to hustle and grind, right? It didn't work with radio station A. You went to radio station B, kicked ass, took numbers, and, it opened doors for you that were previously closed. So it's really just about get through your fear. You can be scared, but hustle and grind while you're scared, and doors will inevitably open and those opportunities will arise.
And recognize that, it's like never, 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 never quit, right? Yeah, definitely that. Another thing is just love on people, care about them. I always told my guys, do not think about yourself. When you're sitting in front of a client, stop thinking about yourself, because when you start thinking about you, you've already lost. I want you to completely think about them and what they need and what they want, and love on them. And what will happen is they're gonna sense it, man. They can sniff disingenuous behavior from a mile away. So the reality of it is that if you'll focus on them and love on them, they're going to sense it and they're going to want to work with you. So that's a big, big part of it right there. And not being afraid. I'll never forget there was a test. I'm going to tell on myself. They gave us a test when I first went to work for a big insurance company. They wanted to see if I was going to be good in the industry. So they had this test, and this guy, after I finished the test, he says, man, you have passed this flying colors. I've never seen a score as high as yours. Well, what the whole test was, they wanted to find out if I was an extrovert or if I was an introvert. And at that point in time, I was the biggest introvert in the world. But I gamed the test. And I basically, so you go to a party and there are a bunch of people at the party. A, do you go sit in a corner and wait for somebody to come talk to you? Or B, do you go up and introduce yourself to people? I was really person A. I would go up and sit in a corner. That was who I was. But so what happened is I said, okay, yeah, I know what they're wanting. But what I did is I became the extrovert. And the way I did it was going out and taking classes. For example, I joined Toastmasters. I don't even know if people even have Toastmasters anymore. But basically
it's still around. I don't know if everyone has heard of it though. So maybe giving a quick summary on what Toastmasters is.
The idea, you have a group meeting once a week and get up in front of the group. A lot of times you'll have maybe a 1-minute question that's asked of you. Like this lady asked me one time, and you have to think on your feet. She said, Paul, I'm having trouble with my plants in my house, and I'm having some difficulty. They're dying, and what recommendations would you have for me? And I'm like, I know nothing about plants, nothing. But you have to stand up and speak. So I said something to the effect of, Wendy, I grew up in a house. My mom had plants in the windowsills. She had them hanging above the kitchen sink, and I'm going through all of this stuff. I said, I'm going to guess that you probably had some plants around the front of your house, maybe in front of the sidewalk, and maybe in front of the windows. And my question for you is this. If you have so many plants outside, why on earth do you need them inside your house as well? But that was not natural for me to think that way. But going through Toastmasters week after week after week, you get so used to being in front of people. You get so used to focusing on them, being able to speak in front of other people, that you become comfortable in your own skin. That and cold calling, oh my goodness, cold calling businesses was a huge thing for me. I had to do it, and you just never meet a stranger. So it was forcing myself outside my comfort zone in order to become the person I knew I had to be to run a successful business. So it was more than just stick-to-itiveness and being tenacious. It was a lot more than that. It was developing yourself as a person and reading. I tell my son all the time, read the Wall Street Journal every single day, I told him. I said, because it will make you an interesting person, because you'll have something to say about just about anything that people bring up. The more value you can add in other people's lives, the more valuable you are.
I think a big thing you said too that, I want to make sure everybody picks up on is knowing your audience, know who your client is, know who your potential new client is. For marketing, how do you know if you're marketing to the right people or even targeting the right people if you don't know who those people are? And then once they sit down trying to figure out what their actual needs are and hearing from them, it's less about you, it's more about them. If the whole conversation revolves around you as the person that's trying to sell your services, something is wrong. There's a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
So it's the idea of asking questions, which is not natural. To ask questions of other people. What's your biggest struggle? What are your biggest worry? What keeps you up at night? What are the things that you really want? If we had, at the end of this meeting today, if we were to accomplish one thing, what would be the most meaningful thing that we could accomplish? What's the biggest deal for you right now? And that gets you off of your agenda. It gets you on their agenda. So the idea is that we want to make sure that we're others centered. I loved what there's this model in psychology. You got Maslow's hierarchy. You need air, food, water, clothing, shelter. You need, to be, you need connection. You need love, he said. You need, self-actualization, becoming all you can be. There was one guy that did a critique of that one time, and it hit me hard. Maslow said you need to be loved. He says, no, you need to love. If you need to be loved, you give control over the person that can either give or withhold love from you. You need to be the initiator. So I can't stress that enough in being a successful business owner, that's what you want to be, is that person. When you're sitting in front of them in that meeting, when you're asking questions and you're really getting into what they want to know, it comes across. You can feel it when somebody's asking you questions that they care about you.
And it even can go further. I mean, you're obviously building this great rapport. You're making sure you understand what their needs, their wants, their desires are to ensure that you're doing the right thing, not only because you have a fiduciary duty, but because now you've built this rapport, right? Who wants to mess over somebody that, feels good about them and they feel good about? But it even goes a step further. So now you have the client. They're part of the Paul Winkler family of clients. And it gives you an opportunity, like I said, Paul is one of my favorites. I love working with Paul. Paul is the person that if we talk about something, he takes it seriously, and he hired us for a reason, just like those clients decided to go with you for a reason. So when you look at your clients and you're like, gosh, this whole group, I just really, really think a lot of, and if I had all of my clients like this particular group, I would think, gosh, how could I not want to come to work every day? How could we not want to help these folks? These are great people. Well, it also gives you an opportunity to deepen those connections throughout the relationship, to do exactly what Paul said, even after the initial sale, where you call some of those clients that, like me, might be your favorite client or one of your favorites, and you have an opportunity to say, why us? What was it that led you to talk to us? What had you tried before? What are the things? Let's talk again about, now that you're removed enough from it and you have a different experience, what gave you bubbly guts? What kept you up at night? What are the things that, really pressed you as a person and made you not always your best self? Because those struggles really can harm somebody and harm other relationships they have. And when you start to do that and you start to get curious and you start to ask those questions initially and even down the road, it allows you to see patterns in people too, and be able to identify things that you understand. When somebody says this, they really might mean that. Or when somebody says this is a way that I can help them through that trouble in that time. Or even build that deeper relationship so that I know so much that, one, my marketing, I can make sure that I'm reaching the right people that I want to do business with, that want to do business with us. Two, it makes sure that those people that we are doing business with, that they know that it wasn't just a one and done. We're staying engaged. We want to make sure if something comes out that would help you and circumstances have changed in your life, here we are, right? It shows them that it wasn't a sale. It's part of ensuring that we're doing the things you need us to do to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, something you said was really good. You're just talking about that people you want to work with and they want to work with you. I think that is so key. When people meet each other, they'll typically have an immediate reaction, either positive or negative. And, let's say if you're talking about dating, for example, I'll tell young guys when I'm counseling them, that somebody rejects them. They're going up, they're trying to find somebody to date, and then they get rejected. And I often tell them, don't think about it as rejection. That person did not know you well enough to reject you. They don't know you at a deep enough level. And when you get that out of their head, that they haven't been rejected, that they haven't been known well enough, it gets you over that fear of prospecting. And a lot of our business, let's face it, is looking for new clients. The right ones will say yes. The right ones will come your way. And you can't even know what it was about you and the relationship that made them say, yeah, come on, I want to work with you. Yeah, and that is the biggest problem that I find a lot of people have, is they are so fearful of being pushed away that they don't even try. As time goes on, what happens, people get to know you even better, and that strong relationship develops, and you have a love for those people because you get to know them at a deep level, a level that nobody else knows them at, especially when you're dealing with their money.
It also allows them to refer business to you, because people that know you, like you, and trust you want to take people that they know, like, and trust and put them together. Right? Like, nobody wants to put their best girlfriend on a blind date with a psychopath. Same thing. Nobody wants to say, hey, my financial advisor is the worst. We've lost a ton of money. Don't know if we're ever going to be able to retire. You want a bite of the apple? Nobody wants to do that, right? Instead, it's, hey, we didn't realize we could be where we are in some instances, right? Because Paul is an educator. He's somebody that is teaching and helping people. And I even want to talk about some of your clients that, and not specifically, but just about the fact that you've helped people get over humps where they thought there was no chance for them to retire, no chance for them to live a different life. And these are successful people. These aren't people that are out panhandling. These are people that are business owners even, that really were struggling, and through education you help them. Well, of course, when you do that and they're out talking to friends and things are going better for them and life has a different perspective, the rose-colored glasses are finally feeling like they should be on your face, you want to share that with people you care about. So building those deep relationships is that.
We've all talked about this, where people in their 70s and 80s will come in and go, thank you for being a friend. And you just look back at your life and go, whoa, okay, I made a difference. That's a pretty big deal. Anybody listening that's a financial person that's going, am I going to be able to make it in this business? A piece of advice I was given the first week I was in the business was this: if you want to succeed, survive, last, don't give up, stay in it. And it is so true that it gets easier as time goes on, because you learn more, you've been in it, people trust that you've been around a while, that you're not going to head out on them, and you're going to be there for the long haul. It does get easier as time goes on, especially if you continue to build the education and continue to look for people that are aligned with you, aligned with your philosophies and beliefs, and you end up working with their family too. It almost becomes overwhelming that you got so much business you don't know what to do with it all.
It's a good problem to have, Paul. But you also, as well as you getting educated, educating your team, ensuring that they're educating and you're educating clients, you're also ensuring that you run a pretty tight ship, that you know where the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and you know what's going on. And I know part of that, is handling compliance. Why don't you just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, who cares about compliance, and just move on?
Oh gosh, no, you want to stay out of jail. The reality of it is, I've had situations where I've had bad compliance before, and I hate it, and it's caused so many issues that were so time consuming and so expensive that I am thankful for people like you guys that are preemptively make sure that we don't get into those situations. That is huge to me, because nothing is more important. And then the other thing is just, people say compliance, it's the great stopper of all sales, and it's a sales killer, and blah 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 blah. I look at compliance and go, you know what? No, it's not, because when you are staying compliant, you're being so honest with the client, and you're being so forthright in how you run your business, that it actually helps your business if you do it properly. We've had disclosures. You guys have had me put disclosures on commercials. And quite frankly, my guys will be, oh, we have to put that on there. And I'm like, no, I love it. Listen what I like about that, and I will reframe the compliance. For example, if we, do a testimonial, how do you have to do a testimonial? Well, there's certain things in there you go, oh gosh, that's terrible. No, it's not. It's great. It's wonderful because it shows the client that you have nothing to hide, if it's done properly. And there are so many rules that seem a little bit arcane and they seem a little bit out there, but they're actually really pretty good and, makes you stand out from other companies that don't do that. So I love the way you guys work. I love the sense of humor you guys bring to all this stuff. I mean, you laugh. I mean, you have fun with it, that is not my previous experience, is having fun with this kind of stuff.
I think a lot of what you're saying is very true for us too. You've got to be authentic to who you are and kind of find that joy and love in what you do, because it translates then in the love and compassion you show clients, that relationship building. If you can show up being authentic to yourself, then you can show up being authentic to others. And people can sense that too. I think people can sense when you're putting on an act versus, no, this is how Paul is. He loves teaching. He loves learning. He loves teaching other people what he's learning, right? And you put it in a way that's easy to understand. And that's just who you are. And I think, a lot of, we do a lot of registrations for new advisors and I feel like a lot of times these advisors come to us oh, here's an ADV I like, here's an ADV I like. Oh, I'm going to do the same thing as this business. And it's like, to a certain degree with all the technology and, a lot of people are using the same handful of custodians, services look the same from advisor to advisor. So what really distinguishes you from other firms is your authenticity and how you live up to who you are, and then the relationship building. You've got CRMs, you've got AI note takers, you have all these tools to help streamline and make your operations efficient. But to your point, what stands out, what makes you different is the relationship with the client, how you show up. Who are you when you show up to clients? I talk about all the time how firms should be out there talking about their compliance and how amazing it is, and how they have basically like this independent person that makes sure they're not violating firm policy, state and federal regulations. We do this with our clients. When there's a client complaint, we reach out to the client and say, hey, I'm the CCO or I'm the compliance officer, and this is my responsibility, is when a client complains to understand what happened, so I can determine if there's been any violation. I can tell you hands down that de-escalates situations really quickly. It prevents litigation. But a lot of times these people just want to vent, and they just want someone who's listening and hearing them. And they just want to hear that you hear them and you appreciate the frustration and you're going to work on making a change. Like, people just want to connect.
You just said they want to be heard. And that is so true of everybody. People will complain, they'll get upset. People want to be heard. They want to know that they matter to you. And if you're hiding from them, and if you're ignoring their complaints, or you're telling them no, they're wrong, and they may not be exactly right. They just want you to hear them, and you could save yourself a world of heartache. And if you have a compliance team that feels the same way and gets that, oh, it's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely important. It reminds me, I think in season 1 of our podcast, we talked about Anger Mountain, and that's exactly what it is. If somebody is approaching the mountain, they can't go down the other side to where, emotions are less heightened and intelligence is more heightened, because when our emotions are high, usually our intelligence is low, right? We're not thinking, we're feeling. And so when you're just pushing them down and not listening or avoiding the conversation, pretty soon, instead of them ever going up and going down the other side, it becomes a mountain, like a volcano that's building, and the pressure is building in the mountain and building, and eventually it explodes and it goes over everybody that's near the dang mountain.
I love it. You're talking my language, metaphors there, Tracy. All right. No, that's really good stuff. Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say about something you guys said a little bit earlier, talking about handling all of these different people and all these different offices and all these advisors. And one of the things that was really, really important to me early on was the E-Myth Revisited. That book was really, really good. Gerber. And if you hadn't read this book, the thing that's really, really great about it is the idea that the business is kind of like a franchise. You have the CEO of the company, you got marketing, you got the operations, you got accounting. And the idea is that the crazy business person is trying to do all four functions. And you have to have systems so that, and he was enamored with a McDonald's where you can have a bunch of pimply faced kids running a restaurant. And you can learn how to do French fries, you learn how to do the burgers, you have another tutorial that you learn about how to run the cash register and how to make an ice cream cone or whatever. And that was the whole idea behind it, is having systems for everything. And that way what happens, I have 10 offices, and all of them, the client gets the same experiences. I don't care what McDonald's you go to in the country, you're going to get the same exact thing because of systems. And that is the key to actually growing the company and getting an experience for the client that's uniform no matter where you go.
Paul, you're now speaking my love language. Policies, procedures, and systems. That's how you operate any part of life. I mean, even if you think about it and take yourself out of a business, in your personal life, we all manage our lives in different ways. Like, I'm a person that in my head, I can keep a checklist. My husband, on the other hand, has to have very routine things that he does. If he gets thrown out of his routine, it throws off his day, right? So for him, the keys always have to be sitting here. This always, like, he has a very regimented system, but that system allows him to maximize his success. And the same for, other things in life, whether it's me, whether it's the kids, whether it's my business life. There are systems that we have to put in place just to function. But without those systems in place, it requires a lot of you too. It means that it can't be duplicated. It can't be consistent, reliable delivery of service. It can't be each office is able to give this uniform experience because everybody's choosing their own adventure. When it's systematized, it means it's not living in someone's head. It's out there where anybody that has access to it can see what the system is and how it's supposed to work. And they can start building that muscle memory and that good hygiene when talking to clients about how the experience is going to go.
And that's the whole idea of a delegation, so that you can be used for your highest and best use rather than doing things that other people, they're gifting. It's a huge deal.
Most people choose not to delegate or say it doesn't work, so I'm just going to do it myself. It's going to be easier. And it's because they don't delegate properly. And usually it's because everything is stored in their head. And so they assume everybody else knows what they already know. So, Paul, talking about these systems, you're right. You can't do the highest and best use of your time if everything requires you. If you're the mailman, if you're the person that buys the coffee for your firm, if you are the person that does the financial planning and you sign the checks, something is wrong.
What Gerber said is like, if the CEO doing the marketing should be getting all over operations saying, give us a better product. Operations should be getting on marketing, said, quit promising so much. And the accounting department should be saying, you guys just quit, leave us alone, let us do the numbers. There ought to be a natural tension between these different areas. So what happens is the same person's doing all of those, you lose that natural tension and you lose all kinds of efficiency.
And you start to sometimes resent your business and your life, right? Because you're not doing the things that you set out to do. You are having a lot of unmet emotions because you thought the business was going to be a mule that created a new life, and now it's turned out to be your child that is completely dependent upon you to be there to do everything, and you just created a job for yourself. And most people didn't want more risk and more type of responsibility in their job. They wanted to own a business so that they could determine what they wanted their life to be and have some modicum of control. But instead, they created a job.
Yeah, and the business owns them.
Yep, exactly.
And a lot of times the business becomes worse than the job you left that you hated, because you could leave that job, but how are you going to leave your business, right? Like, you might have loans, you might have debt, you might have all these issues. You've got bills you've got to pay because they're in your name. You're the business owner. It's not as easy to say, hey, here's my notice, I'm out.
I've threatened to fire myself before, but nobody takes me seriously. No, that's very, very, very true. Yeah. So, you want to build something that you want to work in.
Well, Paul, we are so grateful that you came and shared your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience with all of our listeners. For anybody that wants to hear more about the work that we do or ways in which we could help you with the work that you do, please find us on www.myralawyer.com. We also have our Compliance University for those people that want to DIY and kind of take that leap. And YouTube has a ton of videos that are educational that you can watch. And wherever you listen to Regulate This on any podcast site, Apple, Spotify, all of the usuals will be there. Thank you, and we look forward to talking to you again next time.
So if you've been listening to Paul and you're liking what he's saying and preaching, I believe Paul is recruiting advisors. So if you like the philosophy, if this is an organization you think that you could really spread your wings and fly and soar in, Paul is hiring. So make sure you visit paulwinkler.com to check out Paul and the team, look more into their locations, and reach out. If you're out there looking for a place where you can get a little bit of love and give some love.
paulwinkler.com. paulwinkler.com.